Excellent.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so just to start today, it's just going to be four simple skies. It's just, the sort of thing that you would do on an everyday watercolor. Just a couple of things to think about. If you buy your paper in pads or blocks, it's quite easy to know which way is up. If you buy it in sheets and cut it into whatever shape you want, there's a very easy way to tell which way is the right way up. What you've got to do is you've got to think about how a sheet is made. A sheet is actually made in a long tray like that, and it's got a ridge on both sides, and they put all the paper and the size and everything else in the bottom, and then that's your paper. Now, naturally, this shape makes a line on the underside of the paper and a smooth fall off on the other side. So if we can just look at this, you see there, you've got a fall off, and on that side, you've got quite a sharp line. I don't know whether you can actually see that or not. So if you've got the normal paper, A3 paper cut down, that's the easiest way. The actual sharp line is the edge of the mold in which it's made, and the smooth side is the correct side to use. So that's just a little tip to start off with. Now, I'll just get rid of that. Okay. Now,
Terry, can I ask,
yes,
does it matter which side you use?
yes, yes, because when they make the paper, they line the bottom with size, and then they put all the paper mache or whatever you want to say in there, and then as it's pressed to get a full thing, a lot of the size goes down to the bottom, and the top is quite thinly sized. So it's easily broken down by water. Whereas that side there, which is an old picture I cut up, the underneath side is very, very heavy in size. And therefore, if you try to do a smooth wash, you won't get a smooth wash, you'll get a lumpy wash. So it does matter. It does matter a lot. But as I say, it's the side that's got the straight line is the mold in which it was made, and the other side is just where it's been rolled. So where it's just been rolled is the right side, to use. Now, with these, I've done four, one for each of my paintings. What I've done is I put them all on yesterday, and I wet them thoroughly, absolutely thoroughly, so that they'll absorb water well today. And I don't know whether you can see, but if you look down, they've got slight wrinkles in them at this moment in time. So what I now do is I quite simply just pull the corners, get that, loosen it as much as we can all the way around. If we can get it started, that's better. Pull that back and just keep one side stuck down. That's if you like to stick it down. Some people do, some people don't. If you do that, just move it across and then press down at the edges. If we look down, you'll see that there's still a slight ripple, but nothing like there was before. So let's just start off with something nice and simple, something like this sort of a sky. For this sort of a sky, I use cerulean blue. You can use whatever you wish to do. For these clouds here, I would use light red and ultramarine blue to get the grey for these little clouds at the bottom here. So we'll just put that up there. Now, a lot of people say, oh, they start off with a clean palette. I have a series of palettes that I use with all the different colours in. I use for all the things that I do. And what I do is, when I want to start something, quite simply, spray the palette, a little bit of kitchen roll, clean it up, leaving the other bits and pieces of paint in, There we go. Right. Then we'll just put a bit of cerulean. These are the trays that you use if you are doing lino printing or that sort of similar thing. And I just find them, they're nice and flat. If you use a plate or something like that, they've always got a tump in the middle, and that's always a problem because the colours migrate to the sides. Now, okay, so we'll have that just there. First thing, when you're doing skies, you need a big brush for the water and you need big brushes for the skies. Other than when you're doing the little clouds at the bottom or the horizon, then you might need a number 6 or a flat brush. But do not use little brushes for doing skies. It just will not work. It just will not work. So we'll start off this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thoroughly wet the top. So I'm only going to do the top part of these because if any of them turn out nice, I might put a picture in them. There we go. Just put that down. I know a lot of people like to use kitchen towel when they're doing when they're drying the brushes. I use one of these kitchen sponges because it just takes off the right amount of water, whereas a kitchen towel goes and takes it all off and takes, makes it too dry for the work you're doing. So here's that. Here we go. So what we'll do is we'll mix up some of the cerulean. And we'll mix together. So using this to take off the excess means that when you mix your two paints, it's not full of water. You can get it quite. There we go. You can get it quite thick. And if you're doing heavy clouds, obviously you need it quite thick. But if you're doing lighter clouds, you just quite simply put a little bit of water at the edge of your mix. And then that gives you, can't see that one. That gives you just a nice mix for the clouds. And I'm just waiting for this to settle down. I don't know whether you can see, but there's a sheen on that which is nice and even all the way across. So start now, and yeah, dampen my brush. And as I say, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put these clouds in, these bits of sky in, and that sort of thing. Again, we get that on the brush. And then I always try and make it a little bit darker in the corners. Then, as I said, leave that. We need a little flat brush. We need a right little bit of this, darker, across the skyline, a little bit heavier than that. Just to get the little clouds along the horizon. And then need to just take a couple of clouds out. If I can suggest, a lot of people tend to use kitchen roll. Well, for clouds, really, we're better off with loo roll for the simple reason that there's virtually no lines in it. Whereas kitchen roll has got big images in, and you can sometimes get that imprinted on your sky. And we quite simply go in and take out some of the.
Terry, could I ask again?
Yeah.
Do you ever use white paint for your clouds? White watercolor paint?
No, just I just leave it well, as you can see here, see, in my opinion only, you don't want bright white clouds, because even the brightest of white clouds is grey. Now, can you sort of see that okay from where we are?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah? So what we've got there is sort of a version of this. I mean, I know the colours are different, but you've got the same little broken up clouds and that sort of thing. And as that dries, that will dry in. And then when you put hills or whatever into the bottom, then you get quite a nice little drawing, really. That's just a nice, simple sky to start off with. Afterwards, once it's actually dry, you can use your little brush if you're not happy with anything, and make it so it's thirsty, just dry it all out. And if you're not particularly happy with something, or you want to spread it out a little bit more or whatever, you can just go back in again and just spread it around. But always remember, with watercolour, you cannot put wet into damp. You can put wet into dry, and you can put wet into wet. But if you're wanting to do something like, increase the number of clouds or something of that nature, always wait until it's completely dry, and then go in and sort it out from there. A little bit of down. There we go. So as you see, that's just sort of altered the clouds a little bit at the bottom and made them look a bit more natural. And then when you put your sky in, put your foreground in, you've got quite a nice little image. And that's just dead simple. That's applicable to an awful lot of paintings, and it is so simple. But if you look, the cerulean blue mixes nicely with the light red and ultramarine. They give quite a natural looking effect, really. I mean, this has got a lot more in there, and if I'd got a lot of time, I'd put more in. But just as a guide, that's sort of number one. Nice and simple. So put that down there and put that with it. Good. Now, this is obviously a lot more stormy. It's a lot more, rain clouds and that sort of thing. And really, this is very similar to what we've just done, but subtle differences. If we take another piece of new paper, fresh paper, and once again, we do exactly the same as we were doing before. We wet it all thoroughly. Wet it all down. There we go. Once again, if you look across it, you can see that there's that sheen all over it. Because if you leave any dry patches anywhere, you're going to end up with dark colour where you don't need it. And that's why you need a nice big hake or hake or or whatever you want to call it. They come in all sorts of different sizes. They're very reasonable, and you most likely got them, to be truthful. But they do come in all sorts of colours. Now, there we are. Once again, I shall use my sponge to dry it off a little bit, and we put a little bit of the cerulean, and this time we'll just put bits of the blue in. Just a couple of bits over here, just on this side. And being a bit damp, I'll just keep it moving. Just get rid of a bit of that. You see, do you know what I mean? If I was tapping this onto this brush onto paper rather than that, if I did something like that, it would just suck all the colour out because the brush would be bone dry. Whereas this is not bone dry; it's just what the term is a thirsty brush. In other words, it allows you just to spread the bits and pieces around it. So now we've got quite a heavy mix here. Once again, thin it out. Keep it going. Down. So damp hair. Yeah. Just mix a little bit more. Always be very careful if anybody uses light red. You'll already know that it's incredibly powerful. There we go. There we go. To the stormy bits. Not really mix that very well, but there we go. Yeah. Using your brush, soften any edges off. You might wish to soften. Spread this out a little bit. Still. And then obviously if you've a lot of time, I'm trying to rush, if you've a lot of time, you can spend a bit more time smoothing everything out. This is really just to give you the idea rather than be a finished painting, etc. There we go. Across here. But I can't emphasize the using small brushes is just a no-go. It doesn't really work. But if we just make it so that it runs in a few directions. There you go. Don't really have enough room on here to be honest. There we go. Now, as I say, these are just very quick demonstrations. What we're done with them. There we go. Once again, if we just put some hills underneath, we've actually got some nice stormy clouds coming over the top and the blue sky on this side. Obviously, this needs a lot more work. Go in and you can take some of the blue out to give you the hard edge of a cloud or soft edge of a cloud, whichever you want. You can work on it as much as you want in order to get the effect that you need. But I mean, with this, I'm using the brush to make the shape of the clouds rather than dabbing out as I did before. So you see, you can put clouds back in or whatever you wish to do. And if you want to just soften the edge a little bit, make it look like the underside of a cloud, you can quite easily do that. So that's, just once again, cerulean blue, the paper of white of the paper, and then ultramarine and light red for the grey clouds. So that's not too bad a finish. We'll see what they're like when they dry, of course. There we go. That's that one. Just to go back to where we were for 1 second, I'll put that on the bottom of there. If we sort of look, it's not a million miles away from what we were aiming for. Obviously, on this one, there's a lot more cloud across this side, which I could have put in quite easily, but I am aware that we've got 4 to do. So there we go. That's another one. Oh, there we go. If we look at this picture here, which is what I created earlier, this gives you the horse's tail type clouds at the top. And the only difference between that and the others is that the more of a straight line are the clouds because they're caught in the wind. And of course, we've got at the bottom here, we've got raw sienna. I know that looks a bit yellowy for raw sienna, but it is actually raw sienna. And that gives you a nice, big, expansive sky that goes with the expansive landscape. If we'd done little clouds and that sort of thing and done this sort of a picture, it just wouldn't have looked right. If you're doing your distant Hebridean islands and that sort of thing, obviously, pale, less pale and stronger to get the distance, and then the clouds are all going into the distance towards the horizon. So let's have a go at that one and see how we get to. See where we get to. I've just got a little bit tidy up. Okay. Good. Crossing it. And oh, first row. The left. There. Okay, once again, big brush, steadily wet. And when you wet the paper, go right over the borders of it. Because if not, you're going to end up with a ridge of water down the edge. And then that can run back into your sky and it can cause cauliflowers or water dots or whatever you want to call them from there. Yeah. That's it. Give it a minute to for the sheen to soak in. But you know,
Can I just interrupt a sec? Tim, can I ask Tim? What I've got at the moment is Terry's demonstration as one of the names. Can I make it full screen? Is the way to do that? Terry's.
Yes, if you go to the top right.
Yeah.
In fact, actually,
Oh, it's done it.
yeah, I've just done it for everyone.
Great. Oh, thank you. That's
Okay.
better.
right,
Yeah, thank you.
there we go.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. I've just managed to put some blue paint down here, but we won't be using that, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so we'll start again, and we'll just get some cerulean. And we'll go back in this mixture. And we need this pretty rich, pretty thick, and with a warm effect, slightly warmer effect than we had before. And we also need some raw sienna. This has to be very, very weak, does the raw sienna. Okay. Okay, so we've now got just a nice sheen over the paper, if you can see that. Nice sheen over there. So we'll start off with a bit of cerulean. Don't worry if your dabbing causes bubbles or whatever, they'll all disappear over time.
Does the painting eventually dry perfectly flat, Terry?
Yeah, because you've wet it in the, well, I'll show you because some of them will be dry by the time we're finished.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But as I say, by wetting it at first, you don't get hills and valleys. You just get gently rolling hills, if you like, and what have you. So, yes, it will dry. But this is the difference between buying sheet paper and buying a pad or something like that. Because, you know, if you're paying with respect, a reasonable amount of money for a sheet of paper, you are going to get a better quality. But if you buy hobbycraft or something like that, it's not of the same order at all, and as such, it does dry more wrinkly. But once again, it's like everything, you know, it's whatever you want at the end of the day. And we'll have some.
Do those pads also buckle when they're wet?
Any paper will buckle when it's wet, but the more you pay for something, the less it will buckle, and the heavier the grade. This is 140. Sometimes, if I'm doing something which is going to be really, really wet, then I'll use £300, which is like cardboard, and that doesn't go anywhere, to be honest. It just sits there. It's like painting on a piece of cardboard, but it's got all the same qualities. It absorbs in the same way, etc. So it's it's just all down to everybody's personal choice. Some people like Bockingford. I just Saunders Waterford. There's Arch, etc., etc. But that's very expensive. So it's everybody's to their own choice, really. So now I'm just going to stand up. Sorry, and move the camera. I'm just going to stand up now. But you can see we've got the basic undertones. This is actually more yellow than it does appear on the thing. And when you're going in with the clouds and that sort of thing, it really is just, you know, go with it, etc. And it's very easy to overdo this sort of thing. Very easy indeed to overdo it. Hmm. There's one guy that I follow, and his name has just gone completely out of Steve somebody, and he says never spend more than 2 minutes on a sky ever. And this is the sort of thing. Well, if you keep on going, you are just going to make it worse. And then just give it a couple of moments. A couple of moments. Yeah. And then you just use the thicker of the mix. Whereas using the same colour on this, it's quite blue. But using the same colour on that, it's more reddy because of the sky that you're looking to produce. And then we'll yeah. We now just need a dry brush, a big one. This is a 14, is this. And you just go in and take some of it out so that you get a nice wispy effect. We'll just use a little bit of kitchen just to well, that's not the best I've ever done, but you get the idea of where we're heading to. Now, obviously, this is intended for a seascape, but once again, if you put your clouds, if you put your seascape into the bottom with a couple of hills, a couple of cliffs going into the distance, similar to this one, that's the sort of effect that you can aim to get. But as I said, just too easy to overdo it, which I've done on this one. But you get the idea of the sweeps and the sort of goldy colour down at the bottom to make it more of a horizon. So we'll look at that one and not at that one or this one. Before we go on to the last one, you mentioned about does it dry flat? Well, that's the first one that I did, which is, just a nice simple summer type scene, etc. And if I just hold that up, you'll see that it's just still drying, but there's not big ridges in it. They look worse than they are because obviously the lights are causing a shadow, but it does dry completely flat at the end of the process. And the last, the four, is shall we say sunset, with evening clouds, etc. And for that, we'll just have to tidy up the tray just a little bit. There it is. Excuse the silences. That's better. So we will have a little bit of alizarin, which forms quite a strong contrast colour. There we go. Okay. So we're go again. Wet the paper. Make sure it's got a nice even sheen all the way across. Yeah, that's looking okay. You see, if you've put it down the previous day and wet it really thoroughly and then reseated it, which I have done with these, you've got rid of all the thick layer of size on the top of the on the top of the paper.
So, sorry, Terry, could you just repeat what you said? I didn't quite catch that. If you wet it first, then...
Yeah, what I've done with these is yesterday I got the 4 boards and I got the 4 pieces of watercolour paper and I taped them down and I thoroughly wetted them so that it sort of released the size on the top of the paper. So therefore today it's easy to get a nice even sheen of the water. You see how that's got a lovely even sheen, so you don't end up with dry patches. Do you see what I'm trying to demonstrate?
Yeah, I'm going to see that now. Yeah.
And that's that's the way to ensure that you get a nice even colouring. Nice even colour. And then a little bit of the alizarin. Gives a bit of fire. It's a bit empty then. There we go. Okay. So we've got the blue, ultramarine and the thing, and we'll put some of that across the top. A bit heavier fraction. There we go. Oh. So annoying when you get hairs on it, isn't it? So annoying. And then we need some of the crimson. Then we need some of the raw sienna. Okay. Thing to do is to put in your sun. So again, paper over something round, and we'll put in the sun. And then you don't want it to be stark white, so that's better. Now I'm just going to dry it a little bit. Yeah. Now we need to take out some clouds up above. Use this a little bit. Then, just 1 second while I dry it off. Sorry about the noise. There we go. Now we've got all the clouds are going to be across here and down here, because that part up there, once you've got this filled, that will look okay. We go with the mixture. Once again, slightly heavier on the red because it's a sunsetty type theme. Okay. There we go. And we'll have some smaller ones across here. And then once again, we just want a damp brush just to work these edges a little bit. So that we end up with a bit more natural looking cloud. As I say, bear with me, this isn't a final version or anything, but it just gives you the idea of what you can do, you know, how it can work. And then, like I say, break up the edge. We don't want it wet, we just want it thirsty. Then on this side the same. Just loosen the edges. I've actually dried it a little bit too much, but that's the way it goes. There we go. And these little ones at the bottom here, you actually wet quite thoroughly. Wet them quite thoroughly. And that will allow them to spread out. And then they'll look a little more natural. Hmm. But as I say, if you've got lots of time, you can just keep working on this because the clouds always look very bubbly. The light is shining through them and over them and round them and in every direction. So you need the sort of the bubbly effect. And if you just keep on working on it, it will all come good. As I say, every painting has to go through an ugly phase before it turns out. But as I say, that requires more work. But if you just imagine this as a seascape, once again, you've got your high clouds which are just being caught. You've got your main cloud that goes across there. When you could put more into here, you could do whatever you wish to do. But that's just a way of giving a bit of a horizon on a sunset, and including the what's it? oh, it's what they call it. Gone out of the brain. Anyway, whatever. So that's the idea. It's not perfect in any way, shape, fashion, or form, but it's, that's the idea of where we need to be. So just ever so quickly to recap, we've got the very simple, which, as I say, if we put a bit of landscape in, perfectly good enough for any summer scene. Then we've got the stormy sky. Once again, as it's drying, it's getting a bit more realistic. This just needs a little bit more work here, because it either needs to be a cloud or it needs to be the underside of a cloud. But once again, if you put a little bit of, it's not too bad for a stormy day.
Terry, could you just you say that needs a little bit more work?
Yeah.
Once it's thoroughly dried, could you go back to it and work?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Once again, I will now give these 24 hours, and then I'll go back in, and I might darken that little bit there, and I might darken that, because I like dark corners on the pictures, and this sort of thing. And this here, it just that's just a bit too obvious. It needs to be just subtle it down. And also we need one or two distant clouds across the bottom here, just like on just on the horizon, just there.
Yeah.
No, the idea of today really is just to give you an idea of what's possible. I mean, that's the one that I did today, just to give you, it really is swash it on, and and all the rest of it. But when you've got time and you think about it, that's the effect it should have been today. But as I say, that's just to give you an idea of how it works. And once again, put a bit of a landscape in with some more work. Thin some of this out, and maybe make that a bit more prominent, just as a cloud being caught and what have you. It just gives you a bit more of an idea as to how they work. I hope that's been of interest.
It's been fascinating. It's been very good indeed. I'm amazed at how quick this is. I'm not a painter, I just draw mainly. Yeah. And recently I thought I'd have a go at painting. So I've done an acrylic sky. It took forever.
Yeah. Well,
with watercolour techniques, it's so much quicker.
It is absolutely. I have no idea with watercolour. I've watched videos of it and that sort of thing, and I thought, well, I haven't mastered watercolour yet, so I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try anything else. To put in the mix, if you like. Yeah, you see, I mean, that once I've worked on that some more, that won't be a bad sky. That won't be a bad sky. Once I've actually put some more work into it, and maybe just do something like this in the foreground, or a farmhouse, or something like that. But I think the key is, if you want to paint skies exactly as they are, then you want to watch a guy on TV, Jeff Kersey. He's just a stunning artist, and this is very amateurish by his standards. But as I say, the idea is to give you an idea, rather than in 3 or 4 minutes end up being a product.
Well, I think it's been excellent. So I'd like to thank you, Terry, very much indeed. There's obviously a lot of work gone into it, a lot of preparation. So
my pleasure.
Thanks very much. I enjoyed it. Also, I think we need to thank Tim for hosting the meeting and providing this the facility. Also, we may